Here's why I would rather choose Bittensor's native token called TAO over Ethereum currently, even though nothing I say is financial advice. Now, some people may be thinking, okay, let's say TAO went to the price of, $3,000 for whatever reason, right? The market cap at that point would be around 30 billion, but here's the thing. 3,000 is currently around an 8.5x from here. So sometimes people like to ask me, okay, why would you care about that? Well, it's because if I take a look at Ethereum, let's say Ethereum went to 10 grand, right? That's less than a 3x from here. Now, it's a testament to how well Ethereum did, but then in the grand scheme of things, less than a 3x, it just doesn't necessarily, make me excited. Now, I'm not telling you to do anything, by the way, but this is just my outlook when it comes to it. I'm totally aware that TAO isn't going to become the best performing thing of all time. And how can it, right? I mean, again, the market cap is pretty massive. And even if it just went to like 1.5 grand, around a 4x, right? Give or take. Even at that point, I'd still rather choose that over Ethereum. But besides that, when I take a look at Bittensor, sometimes people like to tell me, are you saying that hypothetically this is better than Ethereum? No, I'm not saying that whatsoever. Ethereum is always going to be more popular than Bittensor. Again, Bittensor has its fundamentals, right, which I'm going to talk about later, but it's not going to be more popular than that. But then at the same time, just because it's done so well, going into Ethereum for me right now currently, it is just not something I would do. But again, this is just my perspective. Now, when I take a look at Bittensor, why do I like it as a project? Well, it's because if I take a look at the fundamentals, I must say I'm a fan of it because usually when altcoins seem to have this pretty good attention, what I've noticed is that these type of AI projects, at least kind of recently, right? They've been known to kind of go along with the ride. And when I take a look at Bittensor, its kind of main focuses, arguably I would say, is AI and as well as machine learning. So I do like that. Now, let's take a look at this a little bit deeper, right? Because if I take a look at Bittensor, it is supposedly a decentralized blockchain network acting as a peer-to-peer ecosystem for creating, training, sharing, and trading AI and machine learning models. So again, main focus is the way I take a look at it, machine learning and as well as AI. Now, when I take a look at it as well, right, it's a decentralized marketplace that brings together providers and consumers of machine learning algorithms and models. So yeah, overall, when it comes to Bittensor, it's not necessarily the most interesting project out there, at least in my perspective. But then I don't mind though, because yeah, sure, I hold meme coins for instance, but then it's not the only thing I want to hold, right? Sometimes I also want to hold something that has actually, arguably I would say more utility, kind of more fundamentals to it. And I think Bittensor, it's something that fits my criteria. I'm not just only holding TAO, right? Which is again Bittensor's native token. But then it's just one of my foundational pieces because I do like it. I'm totally aware that there's going to be probably projects out there that outperform this, but I don't really mind because I am not in here for a microcap, right? Sure, I do believe in projects out there that have a way lower market cap than this, but then I'm not necessarily going into a market cap, of like 100,000 or like 50,000 or something like that. That's just not me. But then again, this is just what I'm doing. But then at the same time, I'm not necessarily going into, something with a very outlandishly massive market cap, right? So, personally, I'm just more so looking for something not too massive, but then not too small either. But yeah, besides that point, when I take a look at the AI market, right, it is expected to be worth nearly $2 trillion by 2030, according to Grandview Research. So that's pretty massive. Again, it's a only time will tell type of scenario, but I do like that kind of, figure nonetheless if it were to ever even happen. But besides that as well, machine learning. Now, this right here is not really something that is often talked about. I feel like a lot of my friends don't really care about that aspect when it comes to Bittensor, but, I still think it's pretty cool and interesting nonetheless because, for instance, the global machine learning market size is expected to be worth over $200 billion by 2029, according to Fortune Business Insights. Now, I'm totally aware that by no means it's going to become the biggest market out there, and how can it, right? But then at the same time, it's still pretty interesting nonetheless. Now, some people may kind of, counter this argument and say that, okay, take a look at, the blockchain gaming market, which is expected to be worth over $300 billion by 2030, according to Grandview Research. Again, I'm totally aware of that. Also, sometimes people like to say, oh, take a look at the NFT market, which is expected to be worth over $200 billion by 2030, yet again, according to Grandview Research. Again, I'm aware of that as well. But then it's not too bad, right? I mean, why not? Machine learning, sure, it's not the most exciting or let alone becoming the biggest thing out there, but then I just still like the whole vibe nonetheless when it comes to Bittensor. Now, what I like about Bittensor is that when it comes to the recognizability, right, in terms of the popularity, it is often a project that I think about when I think about AI. And also, I kind of want to harp back a little bit to the point that I mentioned before earlier on the video that, again, TAO, at the price of 3,000 market cap at that point, considering current circulating supply would be around 30 billion. Now, why doesn't this seem like such an outlandish market cap to me? It's because, Dogecoin at one point, right? Back in 2021, the market cap was over 80 billion. Now, I'm not saying that when it comes to Bittensor is ever going to become that popular, or should I say more popular than, or should I say ever more popular than Dogecoin? But then, again, that was 2021. Currently, we're in 2025. It's almost 2026 at this point. So then, at the same time, it's kind of like, if Dogecoin was able to reach that years ago, are we saying that maybe hypothetically TAO reaching less than 2 times that seems that ridiculous? No, only time will tell, but to me, it doesn't actually seem that ridiculous. But yeah, besides that point, when I take a look at when it comes to me just waiting, that's literally what I'm doing. Now, some people may be thinking, okay, that sounds kind of boring. Like, why would I do that? Well, it's because, to me, my strategy is literally thinking about it like a marathon. It's not a sprint. Again, I'm not telling them to do anything. That's just personally my perspective. But then I'm just holding dollar cost averaging and staying patient because for me, it's just about finding a moment in time in which the market does do something as opposed to trying to find the perfect moment, right? So just by holding, if it does something, then maybe hypothetically, it's like going along with the ride, but that's just what I'm doing. But again, I do want to stay patient with the projects that I am a fan of. And whenever that market, again, hypothetically does decide to wake up, it's going to be beyond my control. Because even though historically, I've noticed that usually altcoins, typically as a worst case scenario, they peak around 18 months after a Bitcoin halving event. So 18 months from the last Bitcoin halving event back in April of 2024 would actually mean October this year. Now, granted, we're in October right now, but it doesn't mean it's going to happen at this month. But again, who knows? Only time will tell. But whenever it does happen, let's say it waits even until March of next year. Who knows, right? I'm still going to be staying patient. Now, some people like to say, okay, why don't you pull up a price chart and draw a random triangle or like a falling wedge pattern and then try to figure out this moment or that moment? Do you think if I just, drew a falling wedge pattern on a price chart, the market's going to care about that? I highly doubt that. It's not going to care at all, actually, in my perspective. So, to me, instead of doing that, I'd rather just focus on the projects that I like fundamentally and just hold and just wait, and literally that's it. But yeah, when it comes to Bittensor's native token called TAO, it is something I would rather choose over Ethereum currently, but this is just my perspective. And feel free to subscribe if you enjoyed this video. I greatly appreciate it. It's Willie the Captain, and I'll catch y'all on the next one. I'm out. Peace. Bye.